Hi everyone, my name is Christian Maier, the sommelier of the club. Welcome to my office. Well, not really my office, but I spend a lot of time down here. What we're going to talk about today is how to care for your wine that you have been panic buying. What are the steps, the do's and the don't? Well, first of all, I like to illustrate that with the worst example of storing wine. I once went to a display home, luxurious house, large kitchen, double doors fridge. What was on the top of the double door? The storage of wine units. This is the worst place to have your wine in there. Why? Because it's exposed to light and heat, which is two of the biggest enemies of storing wine. Now you might think like you don't need to store your wine because you realistically will probably drink it very quickly. The stats somewhere says that 90% of the wines are consumed in the first 24 hours. Well, we're a thirsty bunch out here. But what I can also tell you is that if you leave a wine just above 3 hours for a period of 30 degrees or 30 degrees temperature, you will change the way the wine tastes because that temperature is then the enemy to wine. And that heat, especially above 30, will slightly boil off the freshness of the wine and induce premature oxidation or premature aging, which is not really where you want to go. So how to get by if you don't have a wine fridge? Well, it's very simple. Don't keep the wine on your living room floor. This is the worst place to be. Fridge becomes a good example. Or you can resort to my first cellar. What I did first, I have a very humble cellar, which I brought along with me, by the way. This is really humble, simple foam box. You can use a larger example of this with some partition. You put the wines in there with a lid in a cupboard. You know what? Works a treat. Try not to have a wall facing north because that tends to heat. So really a cool temperature of 15, 16 is ideal. Keep it away from the light or drink it straight away. But you can also change the way the wine tastes by changing its temperature. By having a wine that is slightly warmer, you will actually boil off the flavor. So really a red wine can be put in the fridge. I know I do that at home and people think, why are you crazy? You have a wine in the fridge, a red wine in the fridge? Well, a red wine that is kept for an hour in a 4-degree fridge will come out about 17, 18, which is exactly where you want it. You're maximizing the freshness. It doesn't make much sense to spend $200 for an expensive wine. That doesn't really taste the way it should. So you really want to keep it around 18 max. Same with white wine, by the way, where white wines are kept too cold, the fridge being 4 degrees. At 4 degrees, your sensory perception doesn't really get the intricacy of wine. Really above 8, you start to get those subtlety in wine. So the older the wine, the more complex the wine, the more you go up that scale, 10 degrees, 12 degrees, even 40s for a white wine that is have a bit of age is not uncommon. Sometimes people ask me also, why would you store a wine horizontally? Well, if your wine has a cork, it makes sense because the cork is in contact with the liquid, it keeps it moist and expanded. Because if it dries up, then wine goes out, air goes in, bang, you have oxidation, the stuff you don't want. But with screw cap, that problem doesn't exist anymore, or sparkling wine either for that matter. You can keep them vertically and you might maximize the storage space. Another good way to keep wine is to keep it in the box. It's kind of insulates it and it's better than having it exposed on a rack in your living room floor. So simple things to do to keep your wine tasting the best you can. Hopefully you will remember those tips. Enjoy.